Hi, hope you all having a good day. I think most people use Next.js for building front end of their website, but Next can do a lot of backend stuff as well. In fact, it's turning more and more into a backend framework than a front end framework. So I'm starting this new series called Next Can Do Backend, where we will be discussing different backend stuff you can do with Next.js, and starting with this video where I will share how you can build a complete REST API using Next. So let's get to it. Let's start with creating a new application. We'll go to docs, installation, copy. Let's name this Next Can Do Backend. We need TypeScript. I don't need ESLint. We'll be using Tailwind CSS. No. App router, yes. No. And it should take some time to install everything. Okay, so it's done. Let's open the project. You should also enter the project and run the dev. Open this up. Alright, so we don't need all this stuff. Let's clear all this. We'll say hello, subscribe if you like my stuff. Save this. Now we should do a refresh. Alright, so things are working. Now to build the APIs, we'll have to create an API folder, and inside our API we can create our routes, and you have to specifically name this route. Now let's create a get API first. So export function get will return next response, and I will just say okay. Now to test the API, you can use any API clients. I'll be using this extension called Thunder. Let's create a new request. Now if you have worked with Next.js before, you know how Next routing works. Basically it works on how your file is structured. Now since our route is on the root of the API folder, so just calling /API should run this file. So let's hit send. Oh, it's not 300, it's 3000. Send again. You can see we get a OK response. Now let's try the post API. Send. You can see how we get a 405 method not allowed, because we only defined a get API. So to create a post API, same as before, we'll have another function, but we'll name this post, and this will say post API, and this will say get API. Save this. Now send it. You can see we get the post API response, and just like that you can create the put and delete request as well. So we'll name this put API. We'll name this delete, and this will be delete API. And now you can go ahead and check everything should work as expected. Cool. Now in a real world scenario, you will probably not have this just static text response. You'll probably want to do something with your APIs. Now for this video we will not be using any real database, but just to temporarily store our data, we can have a variable called data, which will be an array. Now whenever someone calls the post API, we should receive the data and send it to our array. Accept the request, type of next request. Next we can capture the body data with request.json, and it's a promise, so you have to await this. We need to make this a async function. Now before we do anything, let's just console and see what we get in the body. Save this. Let's call the API post, go to body, send some JSON, name Arif. Save this, send. So you can see we have access to the data that's coming from the API. So next we can just push this into the data.push body. Now instead of returning this static text, we can just return the JSON body, and we don't need this now. Save this, run this again. Okay, so looks like it's working. Now to see all the data, we can just customize this to return next response .json. We'll just say data. Okay, so TypeScript is screaming because we don't have the data. For now, let's just make it any. Got the get API. It's empty. Oh, I see. Since the code got refreshed, so we lost the variable data. So let's try it again. Have a post request. We have the data. Now get request. You can see we have the data. Now you can post this multiple times, and now when we get the data, it will should return a bunch of names. Now same way, if you need to access the headers, you can get that as well. Headers request.headers, I believe. I think you can say get, and the header name, let's say auth. Save this. Let's console the header. Let's say auth. This is auth header. Save, send, go to console. You can see we have the header. And pretty much the same way you can get the cookies as well. You can check out the route handlers doc to see everything that you can do with the request. The last thing I want to show you is having dynamic routes, because those are pretty helpful for getting a single item or deleting or updating stuff. So let's create a new file. We'll say id, and inside the id we can have route again. Here, let's just copy this, and same as before, we have access to the request. Now to get the ID, we have access to the params, which has a type of ID and which is a string, and then we can just return this to see if it's working. Next response.json ID will be params.id. Save this, save this. Now go to the delete. Now since our delete API is inside API and then a dynamic ID, so we can say API slash just a random ID, I don't know, send. You can see we got our dynamic ID. Super convenient, right? It takes very little effort to build a bunch of APIs with Next. So yeah, that's all for this video. In the next video of this series, I'll be showing you how you can integrate an actual database, so you don't have to work with this, I don't know, temporary variables. Stay tuned for that. Hope you guys liked the video. If you did, please make sure to subscribe and like the video and so on. That will help me to create more content. So yeah, I will see you guys next time. Bye bye.